I've been listening to your channel for a while now, especially the late night episodes. I usually play them while working, and I never thought I'd actually send in a story myself. But something happened to my cousin years ago that still bothers our family. He's not the kind of person who makes things up, and he doesn't even like talking about it much. That's why I figured it might be worth sharing here. My cousin Rafiq used to work at the port. He wasn't the type to exaggerate things or chase attention, which is why the story he told me still sticks with me. He handled late inventory checks for a shipping company, and his shift often ended close to midnight. The walk from the port to his small rented house took about 15 minutes. It was a straight road along warehouses, broken streetlights, and rows of shuttered tea stalls. He had done that walk hundreds of times without incident. But one night, something happened that he never fully explained and never forgot. It was around 12 a.m. when he left work. The port had already gone quiet. The huge cranes were frozen in place, and the water looked like black glass. A faint smell of salt and diesel hung in the air. Most of the lights were off, except for a few flickering lamps along the road. There were no people around, no moving vehicles, not even stray dogs. Just the sound of distant waves and loose tin sheets rattling in the wind. Rafiq had walked only a few minutes when he heard someone call his name from behind. "Rafiq bhai, hey, Rafiq bhai." He turned around. A boy was standing a few steps behind him. The boy looked younger, maybe 14 or 15. He was thin with short hair and wore a simple shirt that looked slightly damp, as if he had been outside for a while. There was nothing particularly strange about him at first glance. The boy walked closer and started talking casually, as if they already knew each other. Rafiq later told me he was confused, but he assumed he might have met the kid before. Maybe the boy lived nearby, or perhaps they had crossed paths at a tea stall some evening. Sometimes people recognize you, and you simply can't place them. So he didn't question it. They began walking together. The boy talked about small things, how quiet the road was, how late it had gotten, how the port looked different at night. Rafiq replied politely, still trying to place where he might have seen him before. Their conversation was normal, nothing unusual. Then, without warning, it started raining. Not a light drizzle, but sudden heavy rain, the kind that comes fast and loud. Within seconds, the road was soaked. They both ran to the nearest roadside shelter, a small roofed stand beside the street. The kind you sometimes see in Japan, simple metal roofing with open sides meant for people to wait out rain. There was no one else there. They stood under it, listening to the rain hammer against the metal roof. Water poured from the edges like a curtain. The streetlight nearby flickered, making the shadows shift strangely. They kept talking. Small talk, nothing deep. Rafiq took out a cigarette and placed it between his lips. Before he could search for a lighter, the boy said softly, "Let me light it up for you." Rafiq handed it over. The boy cupped his hands as if shielding a flame from the wind. Rafiq saw the small motion, heard a faint click, and then the boy handed the cigarette back. Rafiq began smoking while they continued chatting. A few minutes later, two men arrived on a motorcycle and stopped under the same shelter. They parked the bike and stood on the other side, shaking rainwater from their jackets. They didn't say anything at first. The rain kept falling heavily, filling the silence. After a while, Rafiq noticed they were staring at him. He told me he felt uneasy. The road was empty. It was midnight, and two strangers were watching him closely. He thought they might be bandits or troublemakers. His shoulders stiffened, but he kept talking to the boy beside him, trying to appear normal. Then one of the motorcycle riders stepped closer. Rafiq braced himself. He genuinely thought the man might pull out a knife or demand money. Instead, the man spoke carefully. "Please don't get me wrong," he said, "but who are you talking to?" Rafiq frowned. "What do you mean? I'm talking to him," he replied, gesturing to the boy. The man looked confused. "And why are you pretending to smoke when your cigarette isn't lit? Me and my friend have been watching you since we got here. You've been mumbling to yourself and holding an unlit cigarette." Rafiq stared at him, confused. "What are you talking about? This boy beside me lit it for me." The man's expression didn't change. "What boy?" Rafiq turned his head. He froze. There was no one beside him. The space where the boy had been standing was empty, only rain splashing on the pavement, no footsteps, no movement, nothing. Slowly, Rafiq looked down at his hand. The cigarette wasn't lit. It was completely dry at the tip, untouched by fire. For a few seconds, none of them spoke. Rafiq later said he felt his chest tighten as if the air had become heavy. He tried to recall the last few minutes, but everything blurred together. He had clearly seen the boy. He had heard him. They had talked. He told the two men everything, how the boy called his name, walked with him, lit the cigarette, and stood beside him the entire time. The men exchanged uneasy glances. One of them muttered that the area was known for strange things at night. The other told Rafiq he looked pale. They didn't laugh or accuse him of joking. That's what made it more unsettling. After the rain slowed, the two men offered him a ride home. Rafiq accepted immediately. He told me he didn't have the courage to walk alone anymore. He sat behind them on the motorcycle, gripping the seat tightly, and didn't look back at the shelter. They dropped him near his house and left without asking for anything. Rafiq went inside and didn't step out again that night. Even now, years later, he still talks about it sometimes. He doesn't claim to know what it was. He doesn't even like to call it paranormal, but he insists on one thing. He wasn't imagining it. He remembers the boy's voice. He remembers the conversation. And he clearly remembers handing him the cigarette. Still to this day, he wonders what happened to him that night and who called his name from behind in that empty port road. All right, guys, the horror ends here for tonight. There will be more terrifying experiences on this channel, so don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Share it with your horror nerd friends. If you've experienced something paranormal, you can email your story to the address in the description. See you in the next video. Stay safe until then, if you can.